Welcome to the Forbidden Frontier.
We invaded Iraq to get to a Stargate. You ever heard that one?
Oh,
like the reason we
the whole scenario was WMDs was really just a Stargate.
Yeah. Well, okay. You know what did happen? The Baghdad Museum did get completely looted and cleaned out, and we did some of it.
Where did it go?
I personally think we went over there to start a war for the military-industrial complex. That's why I think we went over there. And maybe there's some spoils we took.
It is very ancient.
Art Bell's done shows on them, and it's an interesting theory that we went over there. It makes for a good movie plot. Like we started an entire war to get a Stargate. But yeah, there's Stargate. They've been around forever. I love in the show they go to
Lake Titicaca.
They go to Lake Titicaca. You just like saying Titicaca.
I do.
Pulp magazine from 1931. So yeah, the Meteor Girl is where they first mentioned Stargates in pop culture, but again, it's been around in mythology forever. And the concept of a Stargate, if you're not, I'm sure most of you know, is it's a portal. It's basically a wormhole, a black hole, a way instead of traveling through in a ship, you just walk through a door. This episode is about Stargates, but it's not just like the one T-shaped carving near Lake Titicaca where it becomes a gate that you like walk through. They talk about some Bermuda Triangle stuff. They talk about some weird disappearances. It's mainly about portals and the possibility of portals to other dimensions, being able to get to other parts of the universe. Now, opening up a Stargate, I'm sure like on a micro level, we might have already figured this out. Here's my question. Say you have some apparatus, some machinery that can like make a little, like the size of a pinhead Stargate, right? Aren't the chances really good it's just going to be a Stargate to the vacuum of space?
Right. And that is not good if you're in an atmosphere.
Or
the other option is you're going to open up a Stargate to another dimension, and who knows what's over there. Going back to Event Horizon.
Great movie.
What could be on the other side of that Stargate? Who knows? It could be invisible entities that just want to cause torment in your brain or something. I don't know. That's a bad idea.
What if it's just going on the other side of the mirror? And
that would be cool.
Alternate universe, and you just pop a hole into the alternate universe at the same location you're in. And there's just an alternate you. And depending on which one it is, it could be just the same. They bring this up in the show. There's a show that does this. It's called Counterpart. But instead of poking a hole in an alternate reality, it's through a Russian experiment. They copied reality and created the other dimension. And it was an exact copy at first. And then as time went on, it drifted. People would come over and they had doubles, and it was a short-lived show. Great concept. J.K. Simmons, first season is fucking magnificent. So if
you were in the if you had the system, you had the button that could open up a wormhole. You don't know what's on the other side of it. Would you press the button?
I don't know what's on the other side of it, so I can unleash like some Cthulhu god.
I wouldn't.
On this world.
Yeah, or it could be
no, thank you.
Teleportation to the other side of the galaxy, or the parallel universe, like you just said. You don't know. Who knows?
I wouldn't do it, but somebody would. Some dumb fucking scientist with no common sense.
They're all about pressing those buttons.
Lots of book learning.
What about you, Garrett?
No common sense. No, they would do it.
I'm pressing the button.
I knew it.
Like I said. No common sense. How about you, Xray girl?
No, I'm too scared to walk into a building that might be haunted. Of course I'm not.
But we're going to do it.
I know. I'm scared.
I just wouldn't want to be known as the asshole who let the Cthulhu god in. Okay.
At that point, nobody's going to know because we're all going to be dead.
I would know.
So
for a nanosecond before I was vaporized. But
not again.
So this is a weird thing. And it's that T shape again. This is the first thing you think of when you see Stargate, and this is in the middle of nowhere.
Lake Titicaca.
Lake Titicaca, which wasn't the middle of nowhere, for one. It was larger. It's still like the largest freshwater lake in South America, right?
How did
It
they
looks
get in
like
there?
the pillars of Göbekli Tepe. Yes, it does. And there's other T
Yeah,
pillars.
isn't that interesting? The T pillar.
I mean, that looks like a Stargate. You think Stargate, you see that, you're like, yep, somebody just doesn't know how to turn it on. U.S. invaded Iraq to seize Saddam Hussein's alien portal claims conspiracy theorists. A U.S.-led 2003 invasion of Iraq was launched because former dictator Saddam Hussein had a portal to an alien world. A conspiracy theorist claims Michael Sala, an Australian self-styled expert in extraterrestrial politics, believes that the United States and its allies invaded the country to take control of Hussein's access to alien weapons through the Stargate. I think he would have used them.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe that's why they took the Stargate, because he couldn't escape. Salo believes the extraterrestrials from undiscovered 10th planet in our solar system have long been interfering in human politics. I think it was just a big part of the reason why the Bush administration went to Iraq, to stop Hussein from revealing his information and also to get control themselves, Sala said, according to the British newspaper, the Daily Star, reputable newspaper there. Okay. He added that the U.S. and Britain used the pretext of weapons of mass destruction and alleged connections between Saddam and al-Qaeda to invade Iraq, topple Saddam, and secure the portal for themselves. Well, a lot of that is just true. I don't think Saddam Hussein liked al-Qaeda. I just think they both hated America. But remember, America loved Saddam Hussein for a long time because he was giving Iran hell for a long time. We backed him until we didn't.
Yes, until he was inconvenient.
Hear that, Zelensky? The exopolitical analysis, other theories include that the oldest pyramid on Earth is hidden under snow in Antarctica and that the U.S. Navy has a secret space program. America has a secret space program. Does anybody not believe we don't have a secret? Now, I don't think it's beaming people to Mars. We have a secret space program.
Yeah, it's not a
called the military. Oh my God. It's so ridiculous that we would have secret programs that deal with space.
Kind of how the government works. How they operate. Yeah, I think like if there was a Stargate there and there was some kind of weaponry that he would use it.
Do I think private collectors or dictators or our government or the Vatican has some kind of crazy Atlantean technology? Yeah, I do. I think the Antikythera mechanism is a mere abacus compared to what they have.
Oh, no.
I absolutely believe that. Do I think that we went to Iraq to get a Stargate? I think we went to Iraq and made up a war to test weapons and to keep the machine going. You know,
money.
Rome's economy was basically conquering. So they found shit to conquer, to assimilate. That was their basis of their economy. Beware the military industrial complex. But Stargate, our military industrial complex does want Stargates and is probably working. No, is working on them. Nick Pope made a great point. This is a great war technology. Imagine being able to put a missile in a little portal that won't get tracked, that just shows up right over when it's too late.
Boom.
Or a laser,
yeah.
or SEAL Team 6, or whatever. I'm certain it would make a big difference. The cloaking technology that was supposedly we were working on with the Philadelphia experiment was giant generators making a magnetic distortion to make ships invisible. Theory is it melted the veil, it pierced the veil between reality and another dimension. When the ship reappeared, there was people
fused,
in the walls. Yeah, they all
fused in bulkheads and disappeared.
The cool movie, The Philadelphia Experiments, cool book. Go to the guy who decided to ski across one of the Great Lakes, right?
Yes, one of the Great Lakes. Here we go. All right.
When it was
I believe
frozen.
it was Michigan.
Lake Michigan. When it was frozen, he went out for...
Because it's the Michigan Triangle.
Yeah.
It's the disappearances have happened in there.
What was his name again?
Stephen Kubaki.
Stephen Kubaki is his name. So he took a little trek with some skis and a backpack and stuff and on Lake Michigan, disappeared. They found his stuff and then they followed his footsteps, which ended. They thought he fell through the ice.
Disappeared.
And he was dead.
No signs of ice breakage. His footprints just disappeared. Reported him dead and he showed back up.
Waking up on some grass 40 miles from his dad's house in Massachusetts a year later. That's fucking weird. That's where Dave Polides has talked about him.
Yes.
By the way, missing 411. So South Deerfield, Massachusetts, 24-year-old former college student who I believed to have drowned last year in Lake Michigan is back home, saying he has no memory of the last 14 months of his life. Now, could he just have said, fuck it, I'm going to Mexico, I'm going to do a bunch of drugs and screw a bunch of hookers for a year and come back and go, I don't know what happened.
Look, I don't know, man.
Sure. Stephen Kubaki says he woke up Saturday night 40 miles from his father's house. He was the subject of an intense search after his skis and backpack were found along Lake Michigan shoreline south of Holland, Michigan. Holland.
Yeah.
On February 20th, 1978. I was 8 years old back. Clothes he was wearing weren't his. They told us he slipped. It was Zorbu. Portals have there's been a lot of the hippies talk about this in Northern California, especially when you go up north. There's a lot of places in the forest they say have portals and are special energy places.
Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
That's
lots of weirdness. I think it's just a lot of fucking hippies on drugs.
A little bit of that.
It is weird up there.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah. You get a weird feeling in some of those places. This was the Michigan Triangle, and then there's one over Massachusetts, and there's one in Alaska, and they went over all that. The most interesting thing to me was this guy, Richard Doty. Yep. He says he was overseeing an experiment where they were using magnetic panels of some kind and a laser.
Chemical laser.
Not
an energy laser.
And that they punched a hole in reality, and they were successful. They created, they punched
for a period, right? Not like
2 or 3 seconds. 2 or 3 seconds, and I don't know how big the hole was. I'm guessing it's whatever the size of a pinhead, but that's pretty significant. That's pretty.
Back to the idea is if they had this technology, they'd be using it. It seems like they have not cracked the actual use case for it. They haven't made it usable. They can prove that it's possible.
No practical application,
but it has not had
a practical application. I could totally believe that we have, in some micro level, been able to do this. The amount of energy it would take to make a big one that we could walk through, and then being able to map it and coordinate it.
Right, how do you
I think you're more likely to punch a hole to deep space and you get sucked through the hole, unless the mechanics don't work like that. But Richard Doty does say, listen, there's things you actually have to think about. For one, it will be proof there's other dimensions, and if there is, then there's things you need to think about. What's on the other side?
Exactly.
Is it a danger? What are the practical applications of this? Truth seekers just hey, it'd be cool to figure it out. Maybe we'll meet some new people. No, the government and corporations, can we monetize it and weaponize it?
Right.
And I don't think we're at that point. I can believe that a pinprick.
They figured out a way to open it just a little bit, but not enough to actually do anything or put anything through it.
This is where science gets really fucking dangerous, because I think science isn't human enough, and they're well, there's a lot of money involved, and we get our research, and we want to, we get so autistically into finding the truth that we don't think about we can do it, but should we do it?
Should we?
The ethics of it, yeah.
I think they just do it.
I think a lot of times they just do it.
There's something admirable about just trying to find the truth in everything and going down that road. If you could open up a wormhole, we want to know what's on the other side of that, right?
Yep.
But the dangers of doing that, do they outweigh the benefits? Who knows? We have to open the door first.
I'd love for there to be wormholes and for us to travel interstellar space. I want all that shit to happen.
Oh my God, if I didn't have to get on a plane, that'd be great.
Fucking
Imagine.
I could just Stargate to Peru. That would be awesome.
You don't have to take 2 planes.
Or 3.
Stargate to the movie theater and didn't have to drive there. I'd do that.
So this is from Science America.
Wormhole tunnels in space-time may be possible, new research suggests. There may be realistic ways to create cosmic bridges predicted by general relativity. But as David Hatcher Childress mentions in the show, we need to be able to map these locations and coordinate our way through it. We can't just go in there willy-nilly. No.
So we tie a rope around our waist like in Poltergeist and just go in there.
And then pull it, and you get some ectoplasm
all over your hands, maybe.
It might be good for your skin, though. It might actually be good for moisturizing your skin. You never know.
Xray, you want to go?
No. So that was the more interesting scientific thing. And then they get into Paul Stamets tripping balls and seeing So he found
Yeah.
he found some psilocybin mushrooms, and I mean, he knows what he's looking for. You don't just want to pick up mushrooms off the ground and eat them.
They could be poisonous.
And you want to watch the trippy ones because mostly they grow under cow shit. So he was just curious about the mushroom's psychedelic effects. So he ate them and he had a vision of dead cows. And 5 days later, he drove to a place where there was a bunch of dead cows. Now they were talking about like, did his mind go through a portal? Or how about this one? How about this one? The network underneath mushrooms.
A mycelium network.
Mycelium network. Maybe his trip tapped into the memory of the mushrooms he consumed to the mushrooms that were witnessed to the dead cows.
Maybe.
See, I've tripped on acid before and we've had
like a network of mushroom memories.
Yes.
There is actually, that is actually something that is real. The mushrooms can communicate like through a forest. If they're all connected like that, they can communicate dangers to the other areas, and they'll like put out spores or change the way they behave based on information that they get on other networks. And it's also the way that like our brains are wired similar to mycelial networks, like our synapses and all that. Our brain.
Joe Rogan interviews Paul
like
Stamets. It's a good interview.
It is, yeah, and he's wearing that mushroom hat.
Mushroom hat. That's a really fucking good episode. Travis Taylor talks about taking acid and stuff would make your brain overreact, and that's why you're having hallucinations. When in truth, it puts your brain in almost a hyper meditative state. On LSD, you are not supposed to be hallucinating. If you do, then it is cut with strychnine, which they do. That does happen. Okay. And that gives you a little bit of the hallucinate, but LSD is supposed to be, it's a visual trip, but you're not like seeing things. As a matter of fact, I hallucinated way more on sleep deprivation than anything else because I'd be up for days and days on speed.
What's the difference? Do you mean like on LSD, you're seeing stuff move, but you're not seeing
like
things that don't exist?
You're just seeing things like move. When you're on shrooms or you're up too long or you're on mescaline, and when you're driving down the road, quite often a road sign will look like a person. It'll start looking like a walking, talking person. That's a straight up hallucination. I have also seen a purple gorilla pull a boat across a street at night. Okay, that's a legit hallucination.
And
there wasn't like a homeless person like walking across the street or something.
No,
like,
it was nothing was there. My friend, I'm all. Are you seeing this? My friends all no. So I'm tripping balls.
Just like the cartoons right there.
When you're on acid, things will start moving. So I guess it's kind of a hallucination. Never stare at yourself in the mirror because you will be there all night. It will fascinate you. Your own face will just become a stranger. Cottage cheese on the ceiling.
Oh, I'd imagine that'd be
balls for hours on cottage cheese on the ceiling.
Bro.
Are you talking about like the ceiling was flat, or did you have popcorn ceiling?
Popcorn,
The best way to describe it, and I guess it's not that different for everybody, but it feels like one phase out of reality. And you're just observing it, and it's
like your out of body experience a little bit,
and it's kind of funny.
Interesting.
Yes,
that's something that's interesting. Like we're looking at all these different topics going through the shows, and we went to Cosmic Summit, and a lot of those are kind of similarly talking about this psychedelic aspect of our brains and what our brains do when we're on that, and is that something that could connect us? Like Luke brought up a great point when he was hypothesizing the different places around the world that create technology that are very similar to each other. They feel like they're very directly connected to each other. What if it's more of a psychedelic connection and it's something that we can tap into, or that wherever it takes us and we get ideas from that realm, that plane of existence?
Is there a base programming?
Right.
Basically.
And are we tapping into
I believe that. I do, but I don't think that base programming goes as far as we're going to make T-pillars and we're going to have them be anthropomorphic and have arms going to a belt buckle or a giant rock hard cock. Yes, I think there is base programming. It's called instinct.
Yeah, and it's like, are we tapping into that? And where does that come from?
Well, it's because we're all in a simulation,
bro. I do like the thought of our brains are more of radios picking up a radio signal.
Yeah.
And when we die, the radio just dies and the radio signal's still there.
And we're just part of that signal. That's
consciousness signal.
The Akashic record. So basically the internet storage of the universe.
Which you could call God. You could say God is energy and God is the consciousness that's giving life to everyone that has consciousness on this earth, and it's all connected. Yeah.
How do people who have head injuries and stuff like wake up speaking Mandarin, or how do children learn how to fucking read, like toddlers reading at an adult level, playing piano perfectly. There's some kind of way that our brain can like decode it.
There is something when you're sleeping and right before you wake up, you know what time it is. You know what's about to happen. Somebody could walk, somebody's about to walk through the door. You wake up, that happens. There's something weird about that.
It's like your brain is so relaxed at that point. So you might be accessing that part that is aware of those types of things. Because that's basically what meditating is about, is just that point before you fall asleep. You want your body to feel that. I don't know, maybe.
It's wild connections.
How many
like
people,
that, I can't explain.
Like before the Napa earthquake, I woke up about a minute before it hit. So, and animals can tell, they freak out well before. Like all the pigeons took off in San Francisco in the 89 earthquake. That was well documented that all the pigeons just bolted before it started. So
a big part of maybe why we're disconnected from nature is the fact that we aren't in nature. Because you know how like when you have too much stimulation with the lights and all the waves all around us, whereas when people live literally right in the forest.
Oh yeah, the mindset of the ancients was so different that we can't even conceive it. Graham talks about this. A lot of people have talked about this. They had a night sky they could look at all the time. They didn't have all the distractions. Obviously, they were more in tune, and maybe there was an advanced form of that that didn't need to develop machines and make plastic. They talk about being in the meditative state and possibly being able to travel long distances, remote viewing, basically meditation, astral projection. Maybe it's all kind of the same thing. Mandalas are circular patterns that, especially the ones from like India, they're really intricate and they're kind of beautiful. It's a pattern, right? See the spirals? We see spirals everywhere. If you look at art from people who have been on like ayahuasca trip, and it looks a lot like that. They don't show it in here, but it looks a lot like that. This is supposed to be like the realm of the gods, but it's also where the machine elves live. Is there some kind of frequency that we can tap into when we're really fucking sleep deprived or high on peyote or ayahuasca, or after, sitting in a sweat lodge for too long, which I've done, maybe. They simulated a wormhole. It was basically an observable and traversable wormhole, but it was in virtual reality.
They created a model and simulated the entire universe and proved that you could do this in that simulation. But they haven't taken it outside of that yet.
I think like remote viewing and quote unquote astral projection, projecting our mind, being able to view something very far away. I think absolutely that's something I can buy more than having enough power to open up a giant hole to walk through. If you ask me which one I believe more, it would be the drug one. But I love the concept of it. It makes for great stories. It makes our universe really weird.